Thanks for joining Canvas's latest webinar. My name is Martin Lawan and I'm one of the regional directors at Canvas, and I advise learning providers and the education sector on how to implement online learning within their organisations. This is typically to improve learner outcomes, provide more flexible and engaging training, and to make cost efficiencies as well. So, Paul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there, yes. Hopefully you can hear me okay, Martin.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so my name is Paul Mason. I work for a company called Wray Castle. And Wray Castle, we are a professional training organisation. And there's my title. My email address, I'm Director of Operations, which basically means that I get involved in a little bit of everything. And part of that is training delivery, training formats. And encompassing that is delivery methods, delivery styles, which brings us to distance learning and Canvas.
Thanks, Paul. It's just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. So Paul's going to spend the first 20 minutes or so talking about how they are using Canvas to scale their business and to provide more flexibility around their course delivery. And then there'll be time for some questions afterwards to Paul. And then I'm going to jump in for 20 minutes, give you a little bit of an overview of Canvas itself, and then jump into the Canvas VLE and just give you a very quick overview of some of the main sort of things that you may be interested in as a learning provider or from the education sector. So before I do that, I'll just give you a bit of background. So what we're seeing is that we've increased competition, shrinking budgets, moving goalposts from the government and other bodies. It's more important than ever to have a more flexibility to be able to adapt to a constantly changing landscape. So providers need a solution that enables them to be able to structure their content, provide bespoke courses, increase revenues and scale their business. So Canvas, I don't know, for those who don't know, it's a modern and intuitive online learning platform that enables providers to be able to deliver an element, if not all, of their learning or their training online. This is known as blended learning, and that means it's a blend of face-to-face training with online learning. So all types of different learning providers are moving to Canvas. We're a new type of online learning platform that engages learners and gives the tools to your organisation to provide high-quality online provision. And pretty easily, but I'll show you that in a few moments. So Wray Castle Training found themselves in this position, and after reviewing several different solutions, they decided to move to Canvas. And I'll pass over to Paul.
Okay, thank you, Martin.
Your screen, Paul.
Yep. So if I just share my screen. Okay, is that coming through okay, Martin?
It is, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, thanks for that introduction there, Martin. So we are Wray Castle. We are a customer of Canvas, and Martin's asked us to run through a little bit of how we're using Canvas at the moment, just to give you guys a little bit of background and exposure to how companies can use Canvas in different ways. Okay, so Wray Castle, you may or may not have heard of us, probably not. There is actually a Wray Castle. It's based on the banks of Windermere in the Lake District. It was built in 1840 and it belongs to the National Trust and has done since 1929, I think. However, the significance or the importance to us is between the periods of 1958 and 1998, it was a merchant navy training college. So basically, Wray Castle ran radio and maritime communication training from the castle. So it was an official college where we delivered training, and we developed ship captains, radio engineers, electronic engineers, things like that. So our history is quite closely linked to that of the emergence and growth of telecoms. I'll explain why on the next slide. So in the late 1990s, something happened in terms of mobile communications. So with the arrival of GSM and GPRS, so 2G and 3G mobile technologies, all of a sudden there was a huge demand or a big need for an understanding in how radio communications work. So Wray Castle found itself in quite a unique position because we'd been training radio engineers and ship captains and things like that for 40 years. So all of a sudden, Wray Castle was in the right place at the right time. We had a load of radio experts, and there was a growing demand, a growing need for radio people with radio expertise and people who understood how radio systems operated. So in the 90s and the early 2000s, Wray Castle made a significant decision and moved away from the training in maritime and navy and things like that, and moved into the telecom sector. And they did so, and they did so at the right time. So then, as we moved into the 2000s, between 2000 and 2008, something like that, as telecommunications became more commonplace, we entered a situation where understanding about radio systems, understanding about how they operated, began to become much more commonplace. So that kind of that niche, that unique, that USP that Wray Castle had, it kind of got watered down a little bit because the knowledge in these systems became more commonplace, and you started to get other training companies establishing themselves, and you also started to get other resources being produced in terms of things like online resources, because during this period, between 2000 and 2010, something like that, you saw the likes of YouTube coming to maturity. You also saw online platforms delivering education, such platforms such as lynda.com, Pluralsight. You also saw LMS platforms beginning to reach their maturity. So I think Canvas was established in something like 2008. Martin may correct me there.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Is that right? Yes. And
well,
then
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, around about that time.
Yeah.
So the point being that around about 2008, you started to get this competition from these different platform providers and different types of resources, things like that. And then in 2008, there's the financial crisis, but it was also the point at which 4G systems were beginning to be designed, and we started to see initial testing of 4G systems and rolling out of 4G systems. So you had a situation where you've got the financial crisis, global financial crisis, but you've also got the launch of 4G. So the demand for classroom training and things like that continued because there was an immediate need. There was a immediate requirement for training. So you had technologies starting to develop, but you also had classroom and traditional methods of training delivery still holding its fort because of these advances in technology. Okay, so from 2012 onwards, so 4G has been launched. So you started to see a huge growth in advances in technology, and that's not just mobile technology. That's the availability of self-serve resources, things like video resources, e-learning, use of LMS platforms, virtual learning environments, things like that. So really Wray Castle's history from their time as a radio college up until sort of 1998, and then moving into telecoms and then delivering traditional classroom training more recently has been tested in terms of these advances in technology, and that's called for different ways of delivering training, and which I'll go into on the next slide. Okay, so this title of this slide is The Changing Face of Learning. So these are just four delivery methods of training that we do as a company. Obviously, there's many others that are not included here. So if we start with classroom-based, so classroom-based training is kind of what Wray Castle have done traditionally. Now we've always said that classroom training, the product is what happens in the classroom, so the unique interactions between the trainer and the people in the classroom, and how it is customized to their situation. So that's kind of the product of classroom training. And then we've around about 2012 we moved on to live online. So live online training is things like WebEx, GoToMeeting, BlueJeans, any training delivered in a live online environment where you have up to 12, 16 students dialing in, and it's a training session rather than kind of a talk or anything like that. So in that situation, obviously the format is different, and also the skill set of the trainer begins to change because the visual contact is missing. So whereas in the classroom scenario, there's no visual contact with the students, and it also means that the behaviours of the learners change. So learners tend to dip in and dip out, so they might be doing other things while they're in the online training session, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for the trainer to establish some rapport and flow because you have different people showing interest at different times. And then we moved on to video. So live online, fantastic, and we still do a lot of that. But then we started to see a demand for video resources. So what we saw is that a lot of our customers, and our customers include people like the network operators, government agencies, people involved in transport, Network Rail, and people like that. So what we saw is that our customers started to establish their own LMS or their own learning zones, let's call them, learning environments. And as you went from kind of 2012 onwards, they started to look at gathering resources. So there was a real push for people to try and get as much content, self-serve content as they can, so they could put it on their learning environments, that they could show that they're providing their employees with opportunities to learn because of these resources that they've managed to amass. And that's fine, but again, the delivery style changes. So the delivery style on video, you have to be a much more accurate delivery of information, little deviation which you might have in a classroom, and the consumption of the resource differs again. So somebody watching video is much more likely to jump around trying to find the bits of information that they're after rather than watch a video in its entirety. Okay, so then that brings us to distance learning. So this is a linear progression that we're looking at here. So we started with the classroom and we went online, and we didn't change our delivery methods too much, and then we went to video, but we had to change slightly then and restructure things, and then we get to distance learning. Now distance learning in my mind is the nugget, really. It's what we've been looking for. The reason being is because with video content in particular, what you have there is you just have content, so you have no structure, you have no particular guidance for the learner. There's no, like I say, their style is to dip in, dip out, watch a few minutes here and there. It's not a constructed learning process. It's not kind of education. You might come away with 1 or 2 points. Whereas distance learning, what it gives us is it means that we can take these videos, we can take this content, and we can take other resources, and we can use those to produce a structured course, a structured learning experience, and we can guide students, and we can make sure that learning outcomes are met, and we can do that through assessment and through mentoring. We can also facilitate social interactions, so kind of that social side which is lost in video, and it's lost a little bit in live online delivery, we could bring that back in. So it really, having gone through this process of 10 years or so of moving through the formats, arriving at distance learning is fantastic, because it enables us to use this content that we've developed in the past and to really bring it together in a structured way. So as I mentioned, the different skill sets are required for each of these. Okay, so the next slide. So this just shows you a journal published article by Goodyear and others in 2001, where he stipulates, or attempts to stipulate, the various competencies that online teaching may require. So he's come up with 8 competencies here that he says that, or the authors suggest that are required in the delivery of online teaching. Now, I've just included this because distance learning is really interesting from a design perspective, because it does call for a lot of different skill sets from the trainer and from the team involved in designing the learning, but that makes it extra more interesting. And it also means that even going back to classroom, it makes it better at being able to grasp whether learning has been acknowledged, or learning has been made or achieved, and you can just use such a vast array of resources with distance learning. So you can use all the content that we build up over many years, and then we can design new content, and then as the courses grow and they run, new content is produced. It's produced by the people on the course, it's produced by the conversations, it's produced by the assignments, submissions, so that these courses grow. It's really very interesting, and you can monitor progress as well. So you can see how people are doing and how they're performing, and you can nurture them. Now the other thing is that this here, these different roles may change throughout the course. So you might say, okay, the bottom 4 roles there, the bottom 4 bullet points, you might say, okay, well they might be required very early on in the course. So before the course starts, you might require these different skill sets. And then you can say, well, once the course begins, the top 4 become active. So the skill sets, the different skill sets or competencies required by the trainer, they change as the course progresses. They need, according to Goodyear, these 8 competencies, but although he admits himself this is not complete and is work to be built upon. Now another point to make is that these roles can be divided amongst individuals. So not one person will need to do all this. You can have a number of people working on a particular course, and that's what we do. But hopefully the point here is that distance learning is really interesting, and it's really exciting, and it's multifaceted, and it's a nice place to arrive. Okay, so this slide is just what Martin wanted me to do is to go through some use cases of how we use Canvas. So Martin's going to show you Canvas later, so I just thought I'd try and conceptualize how we use Canvas and see if you find that useful. So here is a picture of YouTube. So I've typed in here 4G LTE. Now 4G LTE, so historically Wray Castle back in the 90s was in a unique position in it was almost the only source of their specialist knowledge in the country. So if anybody wanted training on GSM, GPRS, or radio communications and how they operated, and planning and optimizing networks and building networks and things like that, then they almost had to come to Wray Castle. So much so, in fact, that people would come up on extended stays. It would be a residential, and they'd stay over the weekend, and they'd go out on the lake, and they'd bring their families up, and so much so that some of the rooms were actually sponsored by some of the network operators. So you had a Vodafone room, for instance. So it really was a central hub of knowledge. But fast forward to today, and you type in 4G LTE there, and you've got 1.3 million results. So the power, the knowledge is no longer in Wray Castle's hands. The knowledge is out there. And interestingly, I typed in 5G, and I got a similar. I think I got 1.33 million results. And 5G is not. It's not even standardized yet. It's a couple of years potentially off commercial use. So that just shows you. Okay, so this slide here, I just include a couple of, they're not quotes, but just a couple of extracts from one journal and one report. So the first one shows that what was found in this particular report are digital natives a myth or reality, students use digital technologies. What was discovered here was that, okay, because there's a real thing about education, not in terms of professional, but maybe in higher education and further education, there's this real thing about institutions not keeping up with technology. So a whole thing around, well, technology is advancing really quickly and we've got some really amazing stuff out there, so why isn't this being seen in schools and colleges and universities around the country? So various reports. But 2011, so this one basically says that, okay, well, technology is out there and generally people know how to use technology and they know how to use it well, but they don't know how to use it to learn. So their use of technology is restricted to the conventional social setting, and they lack the knowledge of how it can enhance their learning. And the second point just backs it up, really, just showing that although technology is out there, people still need that structure. They still need that help, that mentoring, in order to learn. Quite sweeping statement. Obviously, some people can learn by themselves, but this is all part about how Canvas can add structure to this whole sea of content that is out there. And the problem with it all being out there is it's unverified. A lot of it's unverified, and employers or teachers have no measure about whether their students are learning anything from such resources. Okay, so this is a bit of structure. So this is how we have taken, so 4GLT that I typed in there, 1.3 million results. So this is a voice over LTE. So this is how voice is carried over an LTE network. So what we've done is we've taken the content that we've got, taken our expertise, and we've turned them into a 5-module course. It runs across 8 weeks. So you can see a gradual progression there from Module 1 to Module 5, from Introduction to LTE, IMS Overview, Multi-Fundamentals, and so on. And then beneath that, I've just created a little diagram there to show you what is included in each module. So this is why I said earlier, it's really quite interesting, because what we've got here, we've got assignments, and the assignments really drive the learning because they make the learners articulate their understanding of particular concepts and their understanding of the material that's being presented to them. So it makes them interact with content, and that's how people learn, really. It's not just by watching content, it's this move from the passive to the active learner, and the assignments really drive that, and the ability to build assignments into Canvas is perfect. Then we've got discussions. So you have discussion forums in Canvas. So this is that social interaction, that building of the wider community, that peer-to-peer interaction. Schedule, very important, build it around a schedule. We've tried both, with and without. I strongly recommend schedule. Workshops, so Modules 2 and Modules 4 have a workshop where the students come together online, like we are now, and the trainer will run a workshop, and he might consolidate knowledge gained to that point. He might discuss some assignment contributions, he might go through a model answer, or he might demo some additional content. That's all recorded, uploaded into Canvas, and it becomes new content, new learning content. And resources, so we provide core reading for the students for each module, and we provide video resources as well for the students. So what you've got here is a real powerful tool enabling you to do lots of different things that echo what you could do in a classroom, but then take it to the next level. You could take it to a personalized level. So really powerful, and it's just showing how Canvas can add structure to an otherwise sea of content. Now, I had a quote from one of our customers who came to me and said, it's great, we've got all this content. He said, I've got some guys that have watched 47 hours of video and I've got no idea if they learned anything. And that's a real issue. Okay, use case 2, how Canvas helps training in niche areas. Okay, so this is Tetra. Tetra is it's a professional mobile radio system, so it's used by, it's not used by the public, it's used by, generally speaking, emergency services. So it will be used by the likes of the police use it, the fire services, ambulance, and the biggest market now is actually transport. They use Tetra, and now Tetra is very reliable, but it doesn't support much data, and it has features on it which enable things like group calling, so you can the police on a radio, for instance, can do group calling, or they can send a message out to a whole batch of radios rather than just to one. So it has a few nice features that make it applicable to these industries. Ultra reliable, but doesn't carry much data, so it's not like 4G LTE that we were talking about a minute ago, which is high data, images, videos, things like that. This is reliable, but that's about it. Okay, so Tetra is actually a very niche market. Okay, so I think there's approximately 10 million users on the global Tetra network, so that's globally, but that's if you compare that to unique mobile subscribers, there's probably over 5 billion mobile subscribers. So in the UK, there's probably 350,000 users for Tetra, and probably over 100 million using mobile phones. So it's a very small market. And the other thing is that not many people do this training, offer this training. So if somebody needs this training, they tend to come to us. So we had 2 guys who came from Kazakhstan, who came all the way over to Kendal, just to attend a Tetra course to learn how Tetra networks are built, and they just didn't need to do that. Through distance learning, it means we can tap into, or we can offer training on these very niche areas. This is one example for people who globally, and for individuals who don't necessarily have access to this training, or equally don't necessarily have access to big budgets, or equally can't leave the big engineering project where they're based. A lot of these, they're used on civil engineering projects, long lead times. People might come on a course just to get a feel for Tetra and whether it's the right solution, things like that. So the market's really small. The point is the market's really small. So using Canvas and distance learning is perfect to be able to offer training to this market. Okay, use case 3, how Canvas enables us to respond quickly. So there's another quote there for Bennett and Lockyer, 2004. That's a really good article. I'd recommend you go and read that if you're moving into online teaching. It's based a study from an Australian university, but really useful, really interesting. And it's where I got those 8 competencies for earlier. So there's, in summary, this is one of their summary points. Dependence on technology influence all aspects of online teaching. So everyone delivering online teaching relies on their platform, whereas offline teachers, technology might be part of what they do. But if you're delivering online education, then technology is everything, which highlights the importance of a robust, integrated and well-designed toolset. So basically, in an online situation, your technology has to work and your technology has to be robust and it has to be intuitive. And what Canvas is all of those things. And what it also does is it gives us speed of rollout on these courses. So we have content available, we have course notes, we have reading materials, and we have videos, and we can respond to a requirement for distance learning very quickly. And that might be right down to somebody saying, I've got a team of 12 or a team of 6 that need training on microwave link planning, but they are based in different operating countries, so there's no chance they're going to get together. So we can respond to that within a matter of weeks, whereas a classroom delivery, we'd normally give a lead time of at least 6 weeks. Canvas enables us very quickly to pool together all of our resources, to get our heads together to build the assignments and things like that, and really respond to bespoke requests such as that very quickly. And it's it's a secure, it's a reliable, intuitive platform. So that's the end of my slides that I prepared. Hopefully kept it to 20 minutes, and now just move on to any questions if anybody's got any questions.
Thanks, Paul. That's fascinating to hear how your delivery's changed and evolved over the years. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, can you please pop them in the chat area now? That would be great. Oh, so we do have one here. And it says, this is from Manny. He says, a great insight into how you're using Canvas, Paul. My question is, what does the future look like in regards to online training and the use of Canvas? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Okay, no worries. The future. Well, the numbers coming through are going to be going up. If you look at the numbers for the amount of people coming through higher education, it's ever increasing, and I think they've got a real challenge at the moment to accommodate the need, and I think in higher education institutions they're looking at distance learning solutions and online training, and you see in the press courses being purely online courses coming out all the time, and it's purely to accommodate the demand that there is for higher education. So I think those numbers are going to be similar as you in the professional world, as you see a lot of companies are global companies now. So you have a situation where budgets are centralized, so they're centralized to a particular country, and then they produce training. They produce a training hub for their entire global reach. So all of a sudden, the demand for training is no longer in the UK. It's Spain, it's Italy, it's further afield. So that's one thing. The numbers are going to increase. So the demand for distance learning in our situation and in other situations, higher education, is going to increase as well. And distance learning is probably going to be the solution to a lot of those challenges. The next thing I touched on 5G connectivity. So we've just gone through 4G. The rollouts are just coming to an end. So 5G is on the horizon. It's being tested as we speak. The specifications are being finalised. So the next couple of years, you're going to start to see 5G solutions coming out. And what that will mean is that will mean better connectivity, higher data rates, which means that people are going to have more technology in their pockets. They're going to have more. They're going to be better connected, which means that demand for things like training, because Canvas has got a really good app, a really good mobile learning app. So people are going to be seamlessly integrating learning with their lives, and from our perspective, with their day-to-day work. So for us, if they can integrate the distance learning and then go back to their jobs and apply it there, and then come back into the platform and learn a bit more and then go and apply it, and that's the perfect situation for us. And then the other thing is that probably content is going to continue to increase. So like I mentioned there, I've typed in 5G in YouTube, you get over you get more results than 4G LTE, and 5G is not even here yet. So content is going to continue to flood in from all different sources. You've got the likes of, you've got big companies like Pluralsight. If you've never heard of those, of them, they've been around since I don't know, maybe 2005, something like that. But they do online video resources. Lynda.com, which is put out by LinkedIn, and then you've got all the freely available stuff. So content is just going to increase and increase and increase. So it makes Canvas even more relevant in terms of this structure and these structured learning processes, which get lost, or can get lost. Hopefully that's answered your question.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. We've had a couple of other questions. One of them is asking us to compare Canvas to another solution provider. We'd like to take that one offline to here for obvious reasons. This has been recorded, and
Okay.
we'll take that offline if that's okay, Zahir. We'll get back to you afterwards.
Yep.
The other one is from Laura, and do you use any other learning or any other platform systems alongside Canvas for assessment, e-portfolio purposes, or do you do it all within Canvas? I know you're slightly different in the sense that you don't do apprenticeships.
That's right.
You're not doing sort of qualifications as such, are you?
That's right. So, because Wray Castle's got a brilliant name in the industry, and to get someone who comes on a Wray Castle course, they tend to go on the CV. That's quite a significant thing to have done, and that just goes back to our history and the quality of our training. So we don't actually use, in terms of assessment, we use quiz questions, which are really well received. We also use assignments, so we stipulate written assignments. So we might give somebody a choice of questions to answer. So they might get a choice of 4 questions, which lets them take charge of their own learning a little bit, and then they'll submit their assignment to a deadline, and then we'll provide feedback on that. So we don't use any external tools for assessment. What we do use is an external video tool, and that integrates really well with Canvas. But I guess we were using that before we were using Canvas. So I know that Canvas has got a fantastic video tool called Arc, but we were using a different platform prior to Canvas, but it's just seamlessly integrated in, absolutely no problem. So that's all we use really. No external assessment.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So we haven't got any other questions, so if there is no more, then I'll move on to the Canvas section, and I'll just say thanks again, Paul, and I hope you're going to hang around for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yep.
I'm going to share my screen. Oh, can everybody see my screen okay? Can you see my screen, Paul? No?
Not yet. Not yet.
No?
It's just coming up. Okay, yep.
Excellent. So I'm just going to give a quick overview for the next 20 minutes of Canvas and what we're seeing in the sector. So this will be no surprise to you, and I'll probably point out here that we know that probably a lot of your learners aren't necessarily in this 16 to 24-year-old age group, but many of them will be. But 96% of this age group, 16 to 24, own a smartphone. So this is the world that they live in. They've got this technology. They're using it on a day-to-day basis. Most of them pick up that smartphone within 5 minutes of waking up and are accessing it and looking at notifications and engaging with content on those devices. And a recent study, in fact, I think it came out on Friday from the Department for Education, actually showed that sending learners text messages improves outcomes. So keeping them notified of where they need to be, different activities that are happening within their course. The DFE have proven that it can increase educational outcomes. So this technology needs to be engaging, it needs to be interactive, and it needs to be social, and it needs to be familiar and provide the same learner experience that they've become accustomed to in their daily lives. We all know that now that technology is rife, and if it's perceived to be clunky, difficult to use, and a chore, then people just don't access it anymore. So it needs to be available anytime, anywhere, and on a device of their choice. And when it is, and it feels comfortable and intuitive, then that's going to increase your chances of recruiting more students, retaining more students, and they should attain better as well. So the outcomes should improve. I appreciate that's a generalisation, but generally that's what we're seeing from the providers who are using Canvas. That's what they're reporting back to us. So what about the trainers? Now, I suppose a lot of your trainers perhaps have been assessors in the past, and with the recent changes to the apprenticeship frameworks, there's more focus now on training, and especially with this 20% off the job rule that the government has brought in recently. So a system needs to be simple and intuitive for your trainers to be able to use, and actually save them time, and not just be another piece of technology that is being introduced because it's going to solve all your problems. You need something that is going to be able to, for your trainers to be able to add the resources that they've already got, as Paul has mentioned, in videos, PDFs, maybe some Office documents, and bring all that together and produce a structure which provides a good learner journey for your learners. So this is where Canvas comes in, and I know that Paul mentioned art as well, and I'll show you that in a few moments. So Paul was right. Canvas was developed. We're actually a US company, but and I'm down here now in our London office. But we're a global organisation, and Canvas was actually developed as a university project over in the US back in 2008, when a group of IT students were asked to find a piece of software that they felt was broken and needed improving. So they picked their VLE at the time, and they came back with this project of how they would change it. And then over the period of the next 2 to 3 years, Canvas was born, it was released to the market, and since then it's grown exponentially all over the world. Just a quick snapshot of some of the colleges and training providers who are using Canvas. I think at the last count we're up to 22, 23 FE colleges now. Some large apprenticeship providers in QA apprenticeships and Cube Learning. Most of you will have heard of Cisco Systems. They use Canvas and have up to and over 1 million users at any one time using Canvas. Got Wray Castle there, who we just heard from Paul, Virgin Trains, and a few other organisations as well. The HE community have really jumped onto Canvas. That's just a few there, but I think we've got approximately 35 different universities in the UK using Canvas, but the likes of Stanford, Harvard, and some big European customers as well. Now, this at the bottom, our corporate clients, we have a corporate solution called Bridge. So these are not using Canvas as such, but they are part of Instructure, which are still part of the same company. So the likes of Tesla, Yankee Candle, Krispy Kreme, and Unilever are all using Bridge. So that's enough of me talking about this, and I'm just going to jump into my Canvas instance now. So can everybody see my Canvas site? No? Why is that? Yeah, excellent. So this is Canvas, and I've branded this up, as you can see here, to make it look like Wray Castle. And that just took me a few moments actually, because there's a theme editor within Canvas which enables you as your organisation to be able to brand your look and feel of Canvas, and also do this for your clients as well. So I know that Paul in the telecommunications industry is working with the likes of 3, O2, Vodafone, and he can brand up his version of Canvas to make it look and feel like the organisations that he's working with. So this is known as the Canvas dashboard. I like to split this up into 3 distinct areas. On the left-hand side here, you've got your global navigation menu. This takes you back to the commonly used areas like this dashboard, to your courses, groups of learners, your calendar, inbox, and a few other areas as well. In the middle here, I've got an announcement, which is just a welcome to Wray Castle Training. And at the bottom here, the system's intuitive to know that me, as a user logged into Canvas, and I'm logged in up here, as you can see, it knows that I'm a teacher on this engineering course and on this 5G course down here, but I'm also doing some staff training and doing some staff CPD. And actually, down here on the bottom right, I've had some video feedback from me personally even though I'm a trainer in the system, I'm also a student or a learner as well, and I've got some feedback down here. Up at the top right, we've got some to-dos and some notifications, and some of the most recent stuff on my calendar is also popped up here as well. So this is, as I said, the dashboard. This is your main sort of hub for when you first come into Canvas, and it will look and feel pretty similar actually, whether you're a student, an administrator, or a teacher within the platform. Before I go in and show you any content, what I want to quickly do is just quickly go into the settings area and show you something called notifications. So I was talking about previously how we engage your learners and trainers as well, and how we actually bring Canvas and the training to them in their personal lives. And we would primarily do that through something here called notifications, and these notification settings that can be set up. So as you can see here, there's lots of different activities and discussions, conversations, etc., which are going to be taking place within Canvas. And what I've done is I've added my institutional email address, which is my instructor email here. I've downloaded the app, so there's an app available within the iOS store and within the Android stores, and I can switch on push notifications. If you're one of those people who lives in Twitter and you like to get direct messages within Twitter, then you can do that as well by toggling it on or off. I've added my personal phone number so I can get SMS text messages from Canvas to my phone at no extra cost. And I've also got my personal email address here. And what I can do is I can be very granular about how I get notified from Canvas. So I can say I want those instantly, daily, weekly, or just switch them off entirely. So these will be switched on as default, and learners and any users will be prompted to add these personalized services when they very first log into Canvas. This completely transforms engagement with the platform, because as I mentioned previously, you're going to be getting these notifications. So when a piece of work has been marked, or when an online meeting or a conference call has been set up, you're going to be getting text messages, emails, push notifications like you've just seen. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to jump into my engineering course, and we're going to come to a welcome page here. So this is a welcome to this engineering course. I've got various different settings and notifications popping up on the right hand side. But I'm going to quickly mention the ARC video platform that Paul touched upon previously. This adds a social layer to your videos, because I think in the past it was kind of just engaging to watch a video. I think having a video was quite unique maybe 5-10 years ago, but things have really moved on now, and people are watching videos all day, every day, on the likes of Instagram and Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. So what we've got here is the ability to be able to add a social layer to your videos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press play, and if you notice down at the bottom right, comments and a discussion is actually going to take place within this video.
I'm building electronic devices that harness the weird and wonderful. Designing the next generation of transport.
And what we've got the comments down here at the bottom. And we also, as a trainer on this course, get analytics and insights into who's actually engaging with that content. And I think that's something that Paul touched on briefly earlier on, is that how do you actually know who's watching and engaging with this content? So this shows us that in the first 15 seconds, all 8 learners on this course were engaging with this content. And then they started to drop off and then started to reappear afterwards. And if we click on different learners, we actually get to see how they have been engaging. And this shows us that Jamie has just skipped the first 55 seconds and gone right to the end. Whereas Rebecca, she watched the first 15 seconds, dropped off, and then went to the end and just watched 15 seconds right near the end. We're going to this system and the ARC is being constantly developed, and we've got some really exciting features which are coming to this tool. So if you want to hear more, just get in touch and let us know. In the interest of time, I'm just going to move on to how we structure content within Canvas, and I think this is something that Paul really focused upon on his earlier presentation. But you've got all this content, you've got all the PDFs, you've got videos, you've got Office documents, maybe Google Docs, various different other packages. How do you bring all this together and provide a learner journey for your learners? Well, we do that through something called modules. Our clients really like modules. It makes for a really nice way of being able to structure the content that they've got. This is all based upon a drag and drop, which you would expect from modern software these days. So if I want to bring this task here, which is something about what is engineering, I can literally just pick this up and move it to wherever I want to. If we wanted to embed a PowerPoint, then I've already opened one here. We do it through here. Instead of it just being a link, this is an active link to a PowerPoint, and the same for Word and Excel. So this PowerPoint would be sitting in the trainer's OneDrive account, and through a live link, it actually hosts itself live within Canvas. So if the trainer makes any edits to this, it will update this PowerPoint across all the courses that it's being used. Move back. And then we've got different tasks here, like assignments, quizzes, discussions that need to take place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into this assignment which has already been pre-built, called the Principles of Engineering, and I'm going to edit this. So what you've got here is a set of tools on this page which will enable you to build out an assignment or an essay or some kind of activity that needs to be done. What's different with this is the ability to be able to use apps inside of Canvas, and that's pretty unique within this sector. So what we've got here is an app store built into Canvas, and I've added a few apps here. You can see the likes of YouTube, Vimeo, Quizlet, a few other tools as well, TED Talks, Khan Academy, and these are all accessed through the App Store, which is built into Canvas within either the course settings or from an admin level. At the current count, I think we've got over 320 apps, and they can all be searched through here in the settings area. So YouTube, there's various different conferencing tools, bits of content, there's Dropbox, web capture tools, plagiarism tools, there's some portfolio systems in here as well. And what this means is that you can extend Canvas out to be more than the sum of its parts. So instead of it being a learning platform, we want to be the best learning platform that's available. We partner with all these different other organisations and bring their tools inside of Canvas. So now what you've got is the ability to bring in, let's say, for example, a YouTube video, which is used on most courses. And if I went to, as Paul used previously, 5G LTE, you now get these search results directly inside of Canvas without you having to leave this page. What you would have done previously is navigated yourself over to YouTube, found the video that you wanted, then looked for the embeddable code, copied and pasted that, brought it into here and added it as an HTML code into the platform. Well, those skills, well, most trainers don't have those, and it's quite long-winded. What you can do here is watch these videos directly inside of Canvas. Decide, yeah, that's what I want, and then embed it into Canvas like that, and that's it. So I've just had a YouTube video. That would be the same with lots of the other apps, all through single sign-on, embedded into the middle of Canvas. So I've just updated that assignment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to my mobile, and you can see I'm getting notifications popping through now. So this is my iPhone. Can everybody see that now? Yeah. And bottom right, I've got the Canvas student app down here. We also have a teacher app as well, and a parent app, which is probably not relevant for this audience here, but it is available. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the student app and open this up. And here you can see that the branding, the logo for Wray Castle is pulled through, that announcement which was on the dashboard previously, and I can just dismiss that by getting rid of it there. And I can go into my various different courses. Now I'm logged in here as a student on this engineering course. And what I can do is I can go into the modules area that we showed you previously, and this is how that content is structured. And I can see as a learner here that through these various different ticks, these are the activities that I need to do, and because there's a green tick next to them, yeah, it's pretty intuitive. I've done those. I can move on to the next piece of work that's available. Now, if I click on this one here, which is the assignment, this is the assignment we've just looked at a few moments ago, and there is that video I've just embedded. So as you can see, that comes straight through into the platform. It renders and plays really nicely within Canvas on a mobile device. I can go to these various tabs up at the top. I can look at the mark scheme. So I've added some outcomes to this particular assignment, so you can actually mark and see and I can see as a learner what the outcomes and what's actually expected of me as a learner. And then I can submit. Now, I've already used this one previously. There's been various other submissions already. So there's different bits of video feedback that I can watch here, some audio feedback as well. And what I can do is I can actually go into here and watch these, or I could turn it in again. And I could upload a file from my phone. So I could go to OneDrive as the app and upload a file if I wanted to. I could do a media recording and use my phone as being out, and I could post up a video. So there's no more of that recording a video, converting the file format, uploading it to the system, then uploading it to Canvas. You can just do it straight from mobile device. And there's various other ways of submitting as well. In the interest of time, I'll move back on. And what I want to show you next is once that piece of work has been submitted by students, it then appears in something called Speed Grader within Canvas. Now, if you asked any of our trainers who are using Canvas, the vast majority would say that Speed Grader is the one tool that they love the most. This is going to really save your trainers time on marking and grading work. So what we've got here is the submitted piece of work on the left-hand side, and what the trainer has is the ability to be able to add comments into here. So fantastic. Please use some references. We can then go in and we can highlight bits of text. We could add a text box. We could strike out certain areas. So you can annotate this document live on the go. We can draw on there as well if we wanted to. And on the right-hand side, this is where we do the grading. So we can do that very quickly by just going through to these different outcomes and just saying, yeah, these meet the different expectations. Save it. And what it's just done is populated the grading here as well. We can give video feedback down here. Just move this out of the way. Audio feedback, and we've also got a speech-to-text tool down here, so you can just talk directly into Canvas, and it will translate that into text for you. And what we also have is the ability up here, once you're having back and forward submissions with the learner, you will actually get timestamps, and you can go back in time and see how the learner has progressed and that piece of work has progressed, given the previous feedback that you've given that learner. That's an invaluable tool, and something that I've been told anecdotally from a few of our customers that Ofsted really like that as well, because it shows the learner progress and it's all recorded and easy to obtain afterwards. Once you've done that, then the results go into a Canvas Gradebook. This is the Mastery Gradebook, which is those learning outcomes that I just showed you previously. And what it shows you is a group of learners, how the group is actually performing against these different outcomes. So this one is how they've successfully pursued engineering studies. 71% of the class have met the expectations, and we can go through these. But we can see here actually that only 43% have actually met this one. And what we can do is you can filter these out and to see if there's any trends. And what we can see here is that student Jamie, she's actually struggling on a few of these different outcomes. So what we can do is just open up a context card, And what it'll do is just give you a quick overview of Jamie, look at her participation levels, her page views, and the last 10 graded items that she's had. And we can also see that this particular outcome has been struggling. And we can see that 75% of the class have not met the grade. So what we would do is we can go to our object repository or content repository, and this is available for all trainers within the platform. And what they can do is they can go in and search for content. That particular outcome was around communication skills. If I search for communication, I can look for different bits of content. I could say, okay, I want to have a look at this content on public speaking. Look at that, think, yeah, okay. And if I add that to a course, I just press import, and that will import in the background to my course automatically. So very quickly, that's my quick overview of Canvas. I'm going to go back into the slide deck now, so I hope you can all see that. If you've got any questions, please let me know, and I'll answer them in a couple of moments. Just before we do go, I'm running an event, or we're running an event in Birmingham next month at the National College for High Speed Rail. And that is on the 25th of April. Invites will be being sent out later this week. You're more than welcome to join us, and we'll be showcasing the fantastic facilities that are on show at the National College for High Speed Rail, and some of our partners will be there on the day as well. If you want a free version or a free trial of Canvas, you can go to this web link here. If you don't have time to jot this down, you can just Google put into Google Canvas free for teacher account,